Hey, welcome to the first installment of our new Shop Talk series where we cover more of the business elements of the business. So we've been slinging goods on Etsy for a long time now, a lot of different things, about 7 years actually of selling without listing a cutting board. So here is a glimpse of our first board that we're going to list. Hopefully we're doing it right. Here's the finish that we're going to apply today as I tell you all about it. Give you a little eye candy to keep you around. So this is a butcher block conditioner that's got mineral oil and wax in it. I'm going to talk about these things as I apply it. So first thing to do is get it on there. I heated this up in a water bath so that the board would accept it a lot more readily. If you do that with anything that's got wax in it, I think you're going to like the results. Just helps saturate the board in a timely fashion. And you can rest assured knowing that you got all the way into the core. So first I'll talk about competition. It seems like everybody makes a cutting board. There are a lot of cutting boards on Etsy, but we've had a lot of success with other items that we thought were going to be subject to the same kind of stiff competition. Cribbage boards especially, pen holders, all sorts of things, compost bins. Anyhow, we've been letting the thought of too much competition stop us for way too long. So we do have a couple stipulations though if we're going to make this work, right? We got to sell these boards at a high enough price point to make it all worth it. And in order to accomplish that, we're going to try to put more bells and whistles on them than you would normally see. So first off, you may have noticed that this is an edge grain glue up, so it should be a little stronger, a little more resistant to the knife than a face grain board. It is not an end grain board, we realize that, but it kind of meets in the middle. We're also going to limit this to the one size initially. By the way, the dimensions of this board are about 17.5 inches by 13.25, and then it's 1.25 inches thick. So it is a beefy board that's not going to warp. That's another thing that was really important to us. We want this to be an heirloom board that is worth refinishing every now and again, that's worth protecting. We want this to be a board that lasts a lifetime for the customer. Maybe even a couple. Talking pricing, we have no choice but to price this board high. It is simply not worth making them unless we price them high. So this board we're going to launch in the 150 range, and based on my research, that actually seems pretty reasonable given the other boards that are available that are thinner, of similar dimension, going for about that price. So Etsy is full of competition, and there are people that will just buy bamboo boards from China, engrave them, and resell them for extremely low prices. So you really are trying to hit a particular niche of customer when you're launching a board like this. And that's the goal here, really, is to go high dollar, find those people with money that really want a quality item that just is unusual quality. If you read our reviews on Etsy, the craftsmanship is mentioned very often. People are always surprised at how high quality the item is. So we are trying to stick with that same strategy and just go over the top with this board. Thinking with the juice groove on top, a nice deep juice groove, very precise, is just to add a little bit more flair to it. It's a feature that a lot of people, it's make or break to them, especially people that cut a lot of meat on cutting boards, grill masters, if you will, really want that juice groove to be there. So we're hoping that's going to help distinguish this board. You may have guessed that one of our loyal robots does it for us, so we have a CNC file that's allowing us to get that nice clean juice groove. The other side is flat and makes a heck of a serving board or a cheese board. It's got these really nice angles cut down the sides. In this shot here, you can really get a sense of how thick that board is and how deep that juice groove is. That's a lot of juice that'll go in there. As we get ready to slap finish on this second board here, now's a good time to tell you guys I really want these series to be interactive. So if you have any questions about really the build, the finish, the process, the business side of things, go ahead and throw them in the comments. And lucky for us, the channel is still a size that we can manage all the comments, so we will get back to you. One last quality measure that I wanted to mention to you guys. You've seen it in my other videos. If you've ever seen any of the cutting board builds, I always raise the grain on our boards. So we are going to sand it to 400 or so, sometimes 220 depending on the board. Wet the grain, sand it again, and then hit it with the finish. And basically, it's the smoothest board you're ever going to encounter when you do that. It's like really, really nice to the touch. And maybe most importantly, after it gets wet once, it's not going to get all fuzzy and gritty feeling after, it's going to stay perfectly smooth like the day you bought it. So as far as the material choice goes, we went with black walnut and cherry because they are kind of the local heroes for us here in the Northeast. You know, they're the two nicest trees in the forest as far as how the lumber ends up looking. So they're locally sourced hardwoods. They're highly available. You can always find nice cherry. You can usually find nice black walnut at the store. So we wanted a really available material composition for this board. Also, the classic black walnut cherry light dark scheme has worked for a lot of different items for us, so why not here? Finally, on Etsy, we actually didn't see that many stripy glue-ups like this, if you can believe it. They're on there, but just not nearly as often as solid color boards. That was kind of surprising to me in my research. So here we go. These two boards are hit on both sides now, and they are drinking all that excess finish and wax that was put in the water bath and is just seeping in a lot more easily than it would have otherwise. It's cold in my shop, so this step is kind of important for a nice quality board like this. Not much left to do now but to get that excess finish off of there and buff the heck out of these things. This finish, like other finishes that contain wax, encouraged the user to apply it in multiple coats. So basically, throw it on in excess, let it tack up a little bit, let the board drink, buff it off, let it cure after that, and then do the same thing with another coat. You can do more coats than that if you want, but there's not really any need as long as you apply in excess that first coat and let the board really drink. My rag of choice for this is a clean cotton rag because they're very absorbing and you can get nice friction on the board, get a really nice buff going with them. Just be careful that the lint's not coming off, especially when you're working with black walnut. Black walnut seems to be great at catching all those little cotton fibers, so just make sure your rag's not disintegrating as you go. Hey, thanks. Bye.